Thank you for coming on Patched Up Providers. We appreciate both of you being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Bill Sames, paramedic now for 28 years. I've been public safety for 30 years between fire and EMS.
And I'm Marisa Crotto. I work for the American Heart Association. I've been there for 3 years, but I volunteered for about 15 before that.
So, Bill, you wanted to come on Patched Up Providers today because I understand that you're trying to achieve a goal. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're going to have a huge community event June 6th down at Macungie Memorial Park. We're going to try to train as many people as possible in one day in hands-only CPR.
You are going to attempt to train a whole bunch of people in hands-only CPR at one time?
Correct. It's all they have to do is 2 minutes of CPR on a mannequin. But I'm going to give like a 5 to 10 minute why we're doing CPR, just show them how to do it. And then we're also going to have instructors there around where the mannequins are. So if they come late, it starts at 10, but if you come later, that's fine. And those instructors will guide you in and give you those same sticking points that I gave in the beginning.
The American Heart Association, are you involved in this as well?
We are, yes. So one of our biggest initiatives is the Nation of Lifesavers. And what that looks like is we're trying to train at least one person in every single household how to do hands-only CPR. Last year, we were able to train roughly 28,000 people here in the Eastern PA market. But we're trying to double that and work with Bill here to make sure that everybody knows and trying to make sure that it's not just one person in every household, because what if it was you that needed it? So trying to train at least 2 people.
What is the number you're trying to get to?
Our number originally was about 3,000 people. We're hoping if we get at least 1,000 people, we're satisfied with that. We blossomed it out into a community event, so it's not just CPR. That's obviously first and foremost, but we have all sorts of vendors, food trucks, DJ, guest speakers that are coming. To make it a day's event for everybody. And it could be anybody. Kids are welcome. We have stuff for the kids to do. Touch a Truck will be, between the fire department, police department, and EMS will be there. Lehigh County Special Operations is coming as well. So there's going to be a lot to do all day. But first and foremost, it's CPR.
I think that's great. You're going to make it into like a community event. I was like, yeah, I could get a bus and bring my students there, make like a field trip out of it. And then I was like, oh, it's not a school day. So, well, maybe I'll just have to encourage them to meet me there.
Right. Yeah.
We at the American Heart Association, we have Heart Walk. So that's one of the biggest things that we're working alongside of Bill in doing this, is making sure that all of our walkers go. It's families of heart, stroke, and loss that come out, and we celebrate survivorship and celebrate all of the work we've done over the past year. So we have a bunch of families, schools, the hospital systems that all want to be a part of this and pushing it out to their communities as well.
And one thing I want to stress is I get this a lot, is like, I already know CPR. It doesn't matter. I still want you there. I still want you to practice. Everybody needs practice. It's a good refresher. It doesn't matter if you're already certified in CPR or not. We just want the volume there. We want the people there. And like Marisa was saying, we just want everybody in everybody's household to be able to know what to do in case of an emergency. 70% of cardiac arrests happen inside the home. And until EMS gets there, there are things you can do to help survival chances greatly.
Even if you have a CPR card, we should go out and support this event, and what your mission is and things like that. I'm going to be pushing it out for you too, to try and get a lot of people there for you as well.
That's great.
Not a lot of people think about emergency services. We're like the forgotten stepchildren of emergency services, but people really care in that moment when they're like, oh no, I need an ambulance. What do I do? Not only about CPR, but like, what should you have ready for EMS responders when they show up at your house? Like having a med list, past medical history, things like that. Like those are all things that, I don't really think there's a lot of education out there on, but boy, is it important when that time comes and we need to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to tag on to that is what, watching out for EMS, knowing who's coming, it's not always just the ambulance. The police department comes. Sometimes the fire department comes. I do a lot of stuff with schools and I teach kids. I'm like, don't be scared if police or fire are coming. It doesn't mean your house is on fire, you're in trouble. They come in, they help us, but what can they do to make sure that we have the right house address? When they call 911, we educate kids on, what the dispatchers are going to ask them, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, just so that we can get there, and then they can go outside if they're able to and flag us down or wave us down or flick their porch light on and off if it's at night, because house numbers are hard to see at night. All those things come into play, and when you add all those up, all those seconds turn into minutes, and it's crucial.
Right. And I teach my students this as well. Like when someone goes down in cardiac arrest, they typically say that you have about 10 minutes of not having oxygenated blood flow to the brain, which would, after 10 minutes, pretty much make you brain dead. And it's 2026, and hands-only CPR is not really new anymore, right? It's been around for a long time.
Right.
But you probably feel the same thing, where you still get a lot of questions on why do we only do compressions? Why do we not do mouth to mouth? Why do we not worry so much about the airway? And I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
So it's what you said. Oxygen is in the blood. Oxygen needs to get to the brain, as well as the nutrients and the sugars and all that stuff that, keep us alive. And for that to happen, the blood has to be circulating. So first and foremost is keeping that blood circulating. And the way to do that is doing compressions. So even when I do teach the provider classes and the BLS classes and stuff, we like breathing. We want you to help breathe. We want you to do some other things, get AEDs, stuff like that. But the most essential parts, even in those classes, is focused around doing those compressions and doing them correctly.
I think one of the biggest things that you just brought up is the not knowing what to do. And that's something from the American Heart Association side of things, is that Nation of Lifesavers is to turn that pause where somebody freaks out and doesn't know what to do, or is afraid to call you guys, or whatever that looks like. And it's something where, in my story, I was 15 years old, and I mean, how early do you get taught to call 911? I mean, third grade, earlier. And it was about 20 minutes until EMS showed up at my house, because I didn't call 911 because I was terrified. So luckily my dad is here today, but that's not usually how the story ends. So that's something that we're super passionate, and me and Bill are teaching kids all the time on not to freeze, to call 911, and then it doubles or triples the survival rate if you immediately start hands-only CPR.
What a story that is. I don't think I picked up on that when you introduced yourself and informed us that you had that event happen when you were 15 years old. So it sounds to me like your dad went into cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And
we were shoveling snow.
Okay.
And my dad is one of those people that, come on, you have to come with me. So me and him, we were best friends and lived together, and he was doing all the things and went inside. And I was like, that is so weird. And I went inside to check on him, and yeah, he was in cardiac arrest. And again, my dad's a jokester, so he always did that, where he'd lay on the ground for a while and then pop up and scare you. And I thought he was joking. And then once I realized that he wasn't joking, I didn't call 911. I called my mom, who was an hour and a half away, and I freaked out and I didn't know what to do. And it took 15-ish minutes to get a paramedic there. And then by the time he coded and everything, by the time he got to the hospital, I don't know how, but they were able to bring him back, thank God. But that's because I didn't know what to do, or not even to call 911. It was that reaction of what we're trying to change.
What an amazing story, though, to then take it and be able to put your time into the American Heart Association and really do good with it. So good for you. And I think that is the basis behind hands-only CPR, because we need you to do something. And then if a dispatcher says to you, can you do CPR? And you're like, I don't know how to breathe or anything. Listen, all we need you to do is pump on the chest.
Right. And that's important too, because a lot of people, they're afraid to start, or they're afraid of hurting somebody, or, and I tell them, I said, when you call 911, the dispatcher's going to guide you through it. They tell you to take your cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone, put it on speaker, put it by the person's head, and the comm center or the dispatchers will guide you through the steps, so you're not alone, so if anything, like Marisa was saying, calling 911 is the first and most important thing you need to do. And then you do have somebody there, at least on the phone with you, talking you through those steps until EMS gets there.
So Bill, another question I have for you is, tell me about why is this important to you? Why are you trying to do this goal and teach people hands-only CPR?
Because I don't have an experience like Marisa had, thank God, but I have seen so many families and what they've gone through over my years. There's times, and again, you can relate, where you're thinking to yourself, man, if somebody was just doing CPR until we got here, for whatever reason, maybe, EMS isn't always available right then and there, right? And sometimes we are a couple minutes away or something like that. And it makes me wonder how many people would have had better positive outcomes if somebody was just doing something like you said earlier. Something is better than nothing, that's for sure. Nobody's getting better if you just sit there and watch them and wait. And so that's kind of turned into my passion. And the more and more I got out there into the community, I guess maybe I was taken back a little bit. I would thought everybody kind of had an idea of what CPR was. There's a lot of people that don't. And over the last 2.5 years that I've been with Macungie, being the outreach program coordinator, that is where I've really took a passion to it, because so many people just don't know what to do, or as Marisa said, freak out. And how do they stay calm? And again, calling 911, at least you have somebody talking to you to try to keep you calm and get you doing something until we get there.
So Bill, how can somebody register for your event? How can they find information, and what do they do to set themselves up to learn hands-only CPR at your event?
They can go to our website, macam.org, which is MACAMB.org. And on the top of the website page, there's a link that you can click that'll take you to the registration page. There's the flyers are out there on our social media pages. They have a QR code that'll also take you to that page to pre-register. And at the bottom, there's a place to donate if you like to donate, because getting the word out there, we're making up signs. I'm trying to get sponsorship. People are just, reposting on the pages and stuff like that, and doing everything to get it. And the word's getting out, because I have now people calling me that I have not reached out to saying, hey, I heard about your event. This is fantastic. I want to help. So the word's definitely getting out there. I think it's going to be a big day. I think it's definitely going to be a fun day. And I just hope everybody comes out there. We're calling it the largest event in the Lehigh Valley. That's where we're striving for.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, but anyway, just like what we're doing here, if you are able to teach one person CPR and it causes a positive outcome in your community, it was all worth it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And we know a couple people like that in our community that are we're working on getting them to be like guest speakers for us. There's a lady that literally learned CPR one week, and the next week her husband went in a cardiac arrest. She's down in the Macungie area, and she did CPR on her husband, and he's still alive today. And that's just, if that's not one of the greatest examples of why this is so important, or trying to get the message out of how important this is, I don't know what is.
Tell me a little bit more about the American Heart Association and your role in this, and how excited are you for this event?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a development director. I do all things Heart Walk for the entire Eastern PA market. So that's 19 counties. We go all the way out to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. There's only 3 of us. So we are a small but mighty team of directors. But I personally, obviously, am very passionate about all things American Heart Association, but CPR in particular. So I've been working with Bill for a while of doing these CPR classes in schools and, Boy Scouts and those kind of things. And he called one day and said, I have this crazy idea. Are you in? Absolutely, I'm in. So I'm really excited. And, we talk about survivorship, and just here in our area, there is a little boy that we're able to teach starting at 9 years old, which is amazing. And we talk about knowing your role in CPR. So when there's a small boy that we taught, he was 9 years old, we taught him hands-only CPR, and somebody in his church went down in cardiac arrest. He obviously couldn't, because it was a much larger man, but he took his mom, who had no idea about CPR or how to administer it, took her over and saved the man's life just by teaching him the steps. So we're super passionate about making sure that everybody knows their role. You might not be the strongest person or know how to do it, but you might be the one to call 911 or whatever that looks like. So me and Bill are really excited for this event, and it's going to be great.
What an amazing story that is. I love that. Know your role. There is a place in EMS for everybody.
Absolutely.
I believe that. And then just like in CPR, something in an emergency situation, everyone can have a role. Even I thought you were going to say maybe he alerted someone to call 911, so there wasn't a delay or anything, but he was able to sit there.
He got in it.
Yeah, took what he learned and was able to teach other people. For a 9-year-old to take it to a level of being able to instruct another person, I guess that's what you do it for. So
yeah, amazing.
that's awesome. We're saying you're going to train people in hands-only CPR, and my question was going to be like, what certification would they come away with?
I wanted to say that if people come out to the event, they are going to get a card from the American Heart Association that's going to say they participated that day. So they will get something saying that they at least had some type of formal training on hands-only CPR. We're also going to give out a card that we have made up through the core program that is just something like a wallet-sized card that you can keep or hang on your fridge, that in case of an emergency, it gives you those steps, just so you have something to reference, in case of an emergency. So they're going to get that. People sit there and they look at that and they go, then, is it really worth it? It is worth it, because it's the very beginning of any certification class of CPR is learning to do compressions. And it's the most important part. So people may not have all, the time to get a certification. Maybe they don't want to, take the time to do it. This is just a very easy way to come down, have a great day, do 2 minutes of CPR on a mannequin, or longer if they want to. They can practice as long as they want, and get a feel for what it's like to do it. Because in all my classes, people don't understand how hard you need to really push down, or how fast they need to push, to get that blood flowing again. So a lot of people always sit there and say, I had no idea, when they do it, and they were so glad that they did it. And I do a lot of hands-on to begin with, and those people are still coming out to my event again too, because they're like, I'd love to come out to the event and just practice again, or bring more family members, or whatever the case may be.
How many mannequins are you bringing to the event?
I think I'm going to bring like 20 to 25. I got instructors coming from all over the valley, and I'm telling them to bring their own mannequin. I mean, I have like 15 of them, I think, down at Macungie. But if they could bring their own, and they're a little bit more familiar with their mannequins, and then that way we can have kind of like a whole area where people can just, come right up, stand in line, do their 2 minutes, next person up. And those instructors will be there with them, helping them, and like I said, talking to them and guiding them through it.
I think, and look at it a little differently too, because I know you have kids. I don't know how old they are, but I know you and your wife know how to do it. But if you're not home and they're home alone and something happens to them.
It's a great point to bring up. My wife is a doctor. I'm a paramedic, and my kids hear us talk about life-saving care for the last how many years, but now that you just brought that up, I don't know if I've ever officially got them down on their hands and knees on a CPR mannequin and was like, hey, if this happens, this is what you do.
Yeah. Because we always have that mindset, it's not going to happen to us. It can never happen to us. And I think that's the thing of like, at 15 years old, if somebody told me that the person who I'd run to was going to have a heart attack, what would you do? I'd be like, obviously call 911, right? Like, but it happened and I had no idea what to do. So we work really hard with our survivors and with Bill and, people that were comfortable to ask those like hard questions of like, here's what you're actually, if you're doing CPR on a loved one, here are some more realistic things that are going to happen. And we work really hard to make sure that people are ready for that scenario, because I think the statistic, it's honestly like 80% of the time you're doing it on somebody you know, and that's terrifying. So making sure that people are prepared for that as well.
If you're familiar with the Lucas device, right?
Yeah. Amazing machine.
Yeah. So when we started using those, which is the machine that does compressions for you, every time we have to move somebody out of the home, get them on the stretcher, get them out in the ambulance, all that stuff, we try to do compressions during that. But it's not the most optimal situation to do good quality compressions. The machine would do them for us. Once we started using that, when I was back in my Allentown days, I think it was like 18 to 20% better outcomes using that Lucas device when you had to move somebody out of a home and you were going upstairs, downstairs, getting them out of the basement, whatever, I mean, obviously if we're just taking them right outside the front door to the ambulance, we can do it manually. And that is the preferred method. But when those machines came out and we were getting that 18 to 20% better outcomes, which was beyond the emergency room, up to the OR, to the cath lab, wherever they need to be to fix their problem. I think that's a good statistic that kind of clicks that, hey, even if I just do hands on somebody, I'm increasing their chances by maybe 20%. That's 1 in 5. Mm-hmm. And that may not sound like a big number to a lot of people, but in the medical field, that's a huge number. It really is. When you can do 20% better for the population than what we were.
I agree. I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
The Lucas device, it's a $20,000 machine.
Yeah.
And what does it primarily do?
It's on compressions, right?
Yep.
And it was so important that we bought them up like hotcakes. You know what I mean? Somehow, some way, agencies found up how to get them. I remember when the price came out, everybody was like, "You got to be kidding me!" But everybody has them. I don't know an ambulance in this region that doesn't have one now.
Oh,
You know,
they're amazing.
just for that reason.
I think some statistics that come to mind are like 350,000 cardiac events happen every year. People, it's the number one killer in people, and it's more than all cancers combined. So, we always have all of the information coming to us about cancer, and we're learning about those things, and that's amazing, and we absolutely should be learning about those things. But everybody, it's your number one killer, and it's your heart that runs your entire body, and you're just like, oh, yeah, no, I have no idea how to take care of that if need be. So that is shocking. And then 7,000 of those 350,000 are youth, but kids on soccer fields and football fields, they don't know what AEDs are. They don't know how to do compressions. Their coaches do, but what if the coach has to walk away for 2 minutes and something happens? So that's something that we're working really hard to make sure that like those statistics are changing, because that's crazy.
I am a little league coach. I coach football, I coach baseball, and my wife brings this up in our area here. Like you mentioned, if the coach walks away. Well, I would say that the majority of the coaches out there on those fields, if you went up to them and you asked them, "Where's your AED?" Where, like, you know what I mean? Where are you CPR certified? Things like that. And that's not saying something negative about them.
Right.
It goes back to my point of, you know, I don't want to see it happen in my area, especially where someone's going to go down on a sports field and everyone's going to be like, where is this piece of equipment? Where's the AED? Who knows CPR? Like, everything goes better if we have a plan.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, is it unheard of to have a personal use AED on your wall in your home? So if this happens, you can shock someone back to life.
Yeah, I don't want to call it unheard of, but I do get a lot of people asking me, do people have these in their homes? And cost is usually the reason why they don't. And maintaining them, you know, because they look at it, it's like something I'm going to spend $3,000-$4,000 on. It's going to sit on my wall, and hopefully I never have to use it.
Right.
But I always sit there and say it's kind of like a healthcare or insurance policy. You know, you're paying for those. You hope you never have to use them.
That's where my mind goes to. But then there's another part of that conversation where, you know, I guess an automatic external defibrillator, you would not have to be certified to use it. You should be to know how to use it, but like you can use that device without having any kind of certification.
Correct.
They're built that way.
Yes.
They give you verbal instructions on how to apply them. So, yeah, and I'm thinking back on my career, and I can't remember any time I went into a house and somebody had an automated external defibrillator on a patient before we got there. That wasn't police or fire.
Right, yeah.
I think something that we talk about in the American Heart Association is one of our biggest pillars is meeting people where they are. So in this scenario that you're talking about is, yes, we don't have one at our home, which I would love for everybody to have one there, right? But we don't have one. So what can we train everybody to know is like we can train everybody that the school down the street has one. The cop car that might be sitting across the street has one. Where can they go in their local neighborhood quickly that would have one? So we work really hard to do that. But then also we work really hard to make sure that we go into schools and I ask the crazy question. I'll stand in a pep rally and ask everybody to go find me the closest AED. And you watch all of the kids in there, the 200 plus kids, look around and have no idea, number one, what it is, but number two, where it is. Then they're asking teachers, and some teachers are even like, well, I have no idea.
Because the last thing on their mind is, am I going to have to perform CPR on someone today?
Correct. So I think if I leave anything is, I think, number one, coming to the event to learn, because that's meeting somewhere where they are, right, is what can I do? But then number two, making sure that if you are anything into, you know, a coach or into sports, whatever that is, I automatically ask you to just go to your next practice and say, like, what happens right now? Like, what do we do? And ask the kids, because in Northeast PA, just here in our area, we lost one person recently who could have easily been saved. There was 5 AEDs on campus in walking distance of a minute, and nobody knew where it was. So we lost the young, I think he was 15 years old. And it's just because nobody knew where it was and it was a minute away. That's insane. So that's something that we are really working on, is asking those hard questions and feeling silly for a second of being like, oh my gosh, no, I don't know where that is. But it'll save a life.
Could have gave him a better chance for sure.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want to say thanks for both of you coming on Patched Up Providers and talking about CPR, cardiac arrest, and how our communities can better train themselves to handle these situations if they unfortunately find themselves in one. So thanks again. I appreciate both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's my pleasure. Our pleasure.
Yes.